Okay, my name is Chadburn. I will be presenting on the Zircon morphology of the East Traverse Mountains. My mentor is Dr. Keith. I work for Colin Jensen as a graduate student, and then I work alongside Brett Spencer as other research assistants. So doing mentor research is awesome, it's great. I hope that all of us can be as enthused as the mentors that we work with. Because the mentors, they really like to dive right into their research. Okay. So for an overview, I'll be talking about.
How'd you guys get that?
I like the way you kicked your legs at the end.
I'll be going over our location of research, a little bit about formation of pebble dikes, Zircon morphology mainly, and then a little bit of future research. So this is White Pine. It's located up little Cottonwood Canyon. It's about 6 miles up. It's the last turnoff before Snowbird, and it is located on the south side of the canyon. This first picture over here is looking down into the Salt Lake Valley to the west. The second one is just looking north at the other side of the canyon. And then this is looking on the southeast side of White Pine. This is East Traverse Mountains. On that far picture, you're on top of Traverse Mountains looking to Utah Valley and Utah Lake. Up here, you're still on top looking to the north at Salt Lake Valley. And then this is looking at the East Traverse Mountains here. So this is where they are in relationship to each other. East Traverse Mountain block down here. White Pine is located up there. So our research is looking at the pebble dikes located in the Traverse Mountains. And we have evidence to believe that the East Traverse Mountains are not a rooted mountain, but they are a mountain block that slid down from the White Pine area from 6.5 to 20 million years ago. We believe that when that was up located where White Pine is, there was an intrusion of the White Pine, or Leucocratic Phase of the little Cottonwood stock, and that created pebble dikes through the Traverse Mountains. And then sometime there was a catastrophic collapse, and this slid and was in place to where it is today. So we'll be looking at the zircons inside the pebble dikes and correlate them with the pebble dikes zircons, and then the zircons found in the rocks in the White Pine phase, and we can see a correlation of the two. So a little bit about the formation of pebble dikes. One, the definition is their fragments were broken from underlying rocks by gaseous or aqueous fluids of magmatic origin and injected upward into the country rock, becoming rounded. So here's a picture. You can see this rounded nature of the pebbles. So what happens is as the meteoric water, magmatic water, enters the system, it gets flash boiled, and the pebble dikes get, they rip through the country rock and they grab bits and pieces of the raw rock and roll them up and round them up. And you can see how big these pebbles can get and how rounded they can be. So we see two different types of pebbles. This is sample 027. This one has no intrusive clasts, so this pebble does not, this pebble dike doesn't contain any of the White Pine or little Cottonwood stock rock. It just contains clays, some ochre formation, and some donut formation. There's some limestone and some black shell. So this pebble dike only contains members of the ochre and the donut formation. Whereas we have pebble dike 36, you can see a very large igneous granite pebble. This is from the White Pine intrusion. You can still see the pebble nature. You have some black shell from the donut formation and some limestone. This rock is a rock from the White Pine up Cottonwood Canyon, and you can see how similar they are. This is a pebble dike from the Traverse, and that's from the White Pine. You can see it has the same basic mineral structure. It has the same QSP alteration that you see along the veins. So those are the two different types of pebbles we see. So talking about zircon morphology, there's 5 samples I'd like to talk about. 2 up here in the White Pine or Leucocratic Phase, and then 3 down found in pebble dikes. 72 and 53. 72 was found in the center of the White Pine intrusion, and 53 was found near the edges. And then also 27, 36, and 39, they're from pebble dikes located on the Traverse Mountains. So first, 027 or 72. This one is located up White Pine. You can see that these zircons are nice and euhedral, they're elongated, most of them are unbroken. A little bit of size variation, and most of them are colorless to yellow. There's a few yellow ones in here. They have very high birefringence. You also see the same thing in 73 and 74. They're just located a couple meters, 10s, 30s meters across, or away from 72. So most of the pebbles from the white pine intrusion up the Cottonwood Canyon have this structure and the same shape and color. This is what we plan to do. We are waiting for a machine to get fixed in Salt Lake to do some laser ablation to figure out ages. But we're going to take two different laser ablations on here, one from the center to see if the zircons originated from the little cottonwood stock or from the white pine intrusion. And then we'll figure that out if we take a laser ablation on the edges to see if there's another small growth zone along these zircons. This is a little cottonwood stock formed about 36, 35 million years ago, and the white pine intrusion intruded around 26, 22. So hopefully we can see a difference between the edges and then the center of the zircons. So here is sample 53. Again, it's located up Little Cottonwood Canyon, white pine intrusion more along the edges, and we see the same basic structure. These euhedral, they're pointed, elongated. Here's a catholuminescence image of them. You can also see how euhedral these are. This is sample 27. It is located in one of the pebble dikes down on the East Traverse Mountains. So these zircons are a bit different because this is a sample I showed earlier that doesn't have any intrusive pebbles. So these zircons only from the ochre and the donut formation. You can see how different they are. They're rounded, they're broken. We didn't pick out as many. The color's not great on this, but they're colorless to pink. They have a different color to them. And they're very rounded, and we don't see that in the white pine intrusion. Here is sample 36, also from the pebble dikes. This one contained those pebbles, and we got two distinct different types of zircons. We have the euhedral runs that we saw earlier from white pine, but we also see these same rounded zircons from the ochre and donut formation. So with these two different zircons from one pebble dike, we can show that there is a correlation to the white pine intrusion. Sample 39 is the same. We see these euhedral ones right here, clear, colorless, and then we get these rounded ones. So we have many different samples that show two different types of zircons in the same sample. We get a size variation. We get colorless to pink on the rounded ones and also yellow on the euhedral ones. The pink color comes from radiation damage from the detrital zircons, the rounded ones, and those are a lot older. Our interpretation are the rounded or detrital zircons are from the ochre formation, which is from the Pennsylvanian or Mississippian. And then the euhedral, partially rounded ones are from the white pine intrusion, and they could be a little bit rounded, as you see here or here, from transport in the pebble dike. So a little bit about future research. First thing we need to do is do some uranium lead dating to figure out the ages. And what we should see are that the rounded ones are 350 to 290 million years old, and then the euhedral zircon should be anywhere from 36 to 5 million years old. We also need to do some hafnium zirconium ratios. So with this, with hafnium and zirconium, they have almost the same valence structure, and then we see that these ratios trend to lower with decreasing crystallization temperatures. So we should be able to look at the zircons and the ratios of hafnium to zirconium, and we can see that if the zircons form more towards the center of the intrusion or more on the outside because of the different cooling temperatures. So that will help us to know if it's from the white pine intrusion or the little cottonwood stock. And also hafnium can be used to trace origins and crystallization settings of host magmas. And then finally we need to do some geochemistry of trace elements and also rare earth elements to correlate the zircons from the white pine and the Traverse Mountain pebble dikes. In conclusion, why does this matter? Why am I talking about this? Well, if we're correct, this would possibly be the largest single landslide block on the world resting on lake sediments in which people live. There's over $1 billion worth of housing and infrastructure on or around, so we know that it is very populated. According to Forbes, in 2015, Lehigh is the 5th fastest growing city in the country, partially due to all the houses being built on Traverse Mountains. So if an earthquake hits, we haven't seen one in a long time, but we know that one is coming. The seismic code could potentially not be up to date because it was built assuming that Traverse Mountains were rooted, and with rooted mountains, earthquake waves travel a lot faster through and with lower amplitude. But if it is a landslide block resting on lake sediment, then we know that the earthquake waves will go through a lot slower and a higher magnitude amplitude. So the earthquake coding on housing could probably not be up to date and could be potential for a big disaster. So that's why this matters. We have a job as scientists who have done this research to let these people know. Thank you. Any questions?
Can you go back to the future research slide? So for the uranium lead dating, how are you able to approximate the ages that you think it will show?
So I mentioned this earlier on 72. We'll use a machine up in the University of Utah and do some laser ablation. And we can take dates from the core and also the edges. So they can estimate the dates within 1–2%. So we should be able to look at the rounded ones and look at the ages, and it should show between 350 and 200.
But how do you know what it should show? That's my question.
Just looking at the morphology, like I was trying to explain, I don't know if I explained it good enough, but these euhedral ones, they're birefringent, they're colorless, and we see that with radiation damage, zircons can turn color, and also the roundedness of them are detrital, or they're from erosion, transportation. So they're very common with formations such as the ochre and donut formation, sedimentary.
So you're just basing those off of the ages of those formations?
Yes, and also the structure of the zircons.
Aren't they also common in the big Cottonwood formation?
We haven't done any samples from the little Cottonwood stock, but just looking at the white
No,
line.
no, the big Cottonwood formation,
Oh, the big Cottonwood
which is
formation.
a huge stack, 10 kilometers thick of sandstone
So
with
we've
rounded zircons.
Yeah, so we've just seen the pebble dikes and the mythology included in that, which we are assuming is the ochre formation. We haven't done any dating yet. I'm sorry, I don't really understand.
Yeah, so the big Cottonwood formation underlies the ochre formation.
Okay.
Right, and it's a big pile of sandstone, and it has rounded zircons, just like that. So I'm wondering why you think they would just pick up zircons from the ochre formation versus the big Cottonwood formation?
It's a good question. That's what we're working on right now. We are trying to figure out exactly how, go back to the slide, how thick the East Traverse Mountain block are. We are trying to do some analysis on the shape of the leftover rock here and figure out how thick the Traverse Mountains block are. And if we can correlate that to the ochre formation, then we know that it's just around that.
So this, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, Dr. Harris and Bonnie point out some excellent things. We don't know what the ages of these zircons are. You know, I guess in the perfect world it might be that. But I suspect we've got zircons that are 1 billion years old and have been rolling around on the beach and reincorporated, and there's probably going to be lots of scatter, I would guess.
So right across the canyon from that side,
Yeah, okay.
that's the big Cottonwood formation.
Okay.
And the ochre formation's above that. So it's not likely that that stock went through the ochre formation. Unless there's a big thrust sheet somewhere and it's passed through it.
Okay.
Okay, good question. Thank you very, very much, Ryan. That was great.